Welcome to the First Mind Podcast. This is episode 4. And I'm so excited for this episode because this is our first masculine presenting human on the podcast. So I'm excited to get some masculine insight and energy and just kind of like have the perspective of what the healing journey is for the masculine because I am very clear as I am embarking on my own journey that the two experiences are very different. The conditioning is very different. The messages we get are very different. And so I want to honor your experience and I want to thank you, Ethan, for even being willing to come on the podcast and talk about your experience because I would imagine that that always wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. So thank you for being here.
You're so welcome. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah. So I would say to start, if you want to just let people know like who you are and kind of tell them a little bit about yourself.
Professionally, I'm an international yoga teacher, writer, and body worker that helps working professionals manage stress, boost energy. That's my professional career. These days, more and more, I introduce myself or know myself just as a student of life and a deep meditator and seeker. So between the two of those is my full-time work.
Thank you. I'm going to talk a little bit about just how we met and came together. And I don't know if you even realize the way that our initial meeting touched me. Like, I don't even know if you understand like the gravity of that meeting. So for listeners, I was visiting in Thailand and I had actually just arrived in Chiang Mai. Like, I literally had put my stuff down and the person who I was hanging out with was like, let's go have lunch over here at the hall where they were just, people would gather and meet and like, they would provide lunch. So we go to this hall and we have lunch and we're sitting down. This is again my day 1 in Chiang Mai. And she and I are having a conversation. My mom had just texted me. So I'm explaining to her about like my experience with my mom and we're talking about mothers, if you will. And then here comes this human, young, attractive, white human, male, right? And says, can I join you all for lunch? And we're like, absolutely. And then you said, what are you guys talking about? I said, well, we're just talking about mother wounds. And I think instantly in my mind, I was like, well, he'll probably get up and leave. But you didn't. Like, you like sat, like you took a deep breath and you said, let's get into it. And then we just started to have this whole conversation about mother wounds. And it was so refreshing for me because I I came to Thailand, I think feeling like I'm at a place on the journey where it starts to feel a little isolated. It starts to feel like the people who I had kind of been doing this journey with are not really understanding like this new journey that I'm on. And so sometimes I can feel like I don't have people in my life who are necessarily connecting in the way that I am experiencing my life. And so to have somebody, especially somebody who is not the same sex as me, validate my mother wound experience, like not only validate my mother wound experience, but also engage in a conversation where they shared about their experience with their mother. It gave me like understanding that the world is a very abundant place and there are so many humans on this planet. And I have to be careful not to get stuck in just my one microscopic experience. Like it's a vast, abundant world. And you really were the catalyst for that thinking, that understanding of like, oh my gosh, like I'm just going to travel the world. Like I'm going to travel more and I'm going to meet more and I'm going to become more curious and I'm going to ask more questions because there are people who are on this journey in the same way that I am. So that's how we met. That is how you came into my life. Yeah.
What I remember distinctly about that conversation as well, which ties in nicely to the talk we're about to have, was the differences and similarities in people's mother wounds from the masculine versus feminine, and then daddy wounds, masculine versus feminine, and how those show up. And I remember that very distinctly. Like it was a deeper conversation than I was used to about that particular topic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Ethan, with that, I really am wanting to understand how you became the Ethan that you are today. And so I know you talk a little bit about having come from the corporate world and experiencing some burnout. And I find that a lot of the guests that come on my show are people who felt burnout from their former life and now just have a intention in kind of doing this life journey a little bit differently. But yeah, I'm truly curious how is it that you became a person who can sit at a table with two women who don't look like you, who don't come from necessarily the same background as you, and engage in a conversation about mother wounds? Like, what is the recipe, if you will, to make a human that way?
I don't know about recipes. When I'll start with like childhood because at least a few stories feel relevant to this. Um, Sensitive, shy young boy. If you were to look at many pictures of me growing up, there was always this uh, cowering away or kind of flinching at the world, quiet, and all of that got magnified when I was 6 or 7 years old in first grade and being pushed forward a grade. So my teachers, principal, parents decided no need to be in first grade. He's learned this timetable. This is just going to slow him down. So they pushed me forward a year with everyone that was a year older than me. And that was an extremely stressful, challenging circumstance for a boy that was shy, small. And so all of my predilections just became stronger. I became even shyer, even more quiet. And it took many, many years until roughly high school and college that I even started stepping out of my shell again, which meant, and to answer your question more directly, a lot of listening, a lot of asking questions because I did not feel comfortable having the spotlight on me in any way, shape, or form. There was a specific instance in my first grade when they moved me forward that one of the gym teachers pulled me, like completely isolated me from the pack and stood me in front of the entire class and basically singled me out as, look how smart this young man is. From his mind, he's doing the right, he's pumping me up. But I felt like there was a target on my back. And so it was silence, 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 silence for many years. And I imagine that silence will become a thread throughout our conversation because I think, at least for the masculine role, it's one of the most potent transformers that we can, that
Did you know, like when you were a child, that you were like more quiet, more shy? You were maybe different from your peers. Like, did you have that awareness even when you were young?
Yes and no. It's tough to say completely looking back because there were a few kids like me. I did have friendships that were with other sensitive kids and we were able to play along and I had hobbies. So it wasn't until I skipped a grade that it became more and more obvious that this was more of my personality,
Yeah.
which isn't to say I'm an introvert by any means. In fact, I consider myself an extrovert, hence being able to go up to people and speaking with them. But what I just didn't enjoy, have been working through all these years, is how do I actually allow attention to be on me, to share my story, to feel like I'm worthy of saying something. That's been the primary obstacle.
Yes, yes, very much so my obstacle too. I want to know, like, talk to me a little bit about the humans that guided you. So like your parents, what were some of the messages that you were receiving from them about how you were showing up in the world? So maybe your shyness or your sensitivity. I know just what you hear sometimes in the masculine experience is that sensitivity can be, sometimes attacked or just really not supported. So I'm curious, what were the people who were guiding you and rearing you? What was their response to how you were?
In culture, it was very much what you're describing, which is even if it's not explicit, even if it's not straight up, swallow that cry, even if it wasn't explicit, it was implicit in everything. On top of being a shy boy, I cried all the time. I mean, seriously, I remember in sixth grade specifically, there was this assignment that my math homework teacher gave me, and I wrote it down wrong. So I've got to do 100 problems for homework, and I'm just crying. And I get to class, and Lord knows, maybe I did 50. I gave up, and I got to class, and turns out it was 10. I just wrote the problem down, and
Mm.
I'm losing it in class. I'm just crying so hard because of the stress that it caused me, and I feel like such a fool. And all the eyes turn on me, and then of course it spirals out of control because now I'm crying that I'm crying. I'm saying, why can't you just stop? I mean, this is a pattern growing up until like I cried in public in schools until well into high school. Um,
Wow.
so no one, people when I was growing up are generally nicer. So no one, bullied or shoved anything into my face, but you can feel the aura of the air. What a pansy.
Mm.
Luckily at home, situation was a little bit different. Of course, there was a little bit of programming on my parents' side, very subtle stuff. But for the most part, my mom allowed me to. I remember a separate story where my girlfriend in freshman year of high school just so happened to break up, cheat on me, break up with me. And my mom, Lord bless her soul, she gave me a tennis racket. And she said, go downstairs to the couch and just scream and hit this thing. And so she had the awareness of like emotions should not be bottled in any form, especially for young men who have the anger. And not only are we told to suppress our sadness and our grief, but now there's also this expectation of, well, don't feel your anger either because anger is toxic masculinity. So it's just, we're all just so boiled up in there, especially as men who do not know how to express themselves healthily.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you learn that, Ethan? Like how did
Learn
you
the
come to learn? Yeah, like your mom sounds like she was like already kind of giving you that pathway, which is like giving you that language of expression. So that's amazing. But then as you matriculated on, like what do you think it was that made you feel comfortable? Because you have such a good language for your emotions. Like how did that come to be?
when I started waking up spiritually, emotionally, this was, so high school went on. By the end of high school, I'm somewhat of a popular kid. I'm in student government. I'm outspoken, but that was about the time that it started turning into partying and drinking and a new form of emotional repression. I can feel my emotions in the sense in the way of screaming and yelling and all this, but I can't feel the deeper emotions of, oh my God, I just want to be loved. I just want to be accepted by my friends. And so all of that started to turn after a big heartbreak in my life in college, where suddenly the world started crumbling down. And frankly, books and writing, those two have been just the most fundamental. There's this extremely wonderful book called How Emotions Are Made by
Mm,
Lisa Barrett Feldman that was extremely touching to me. And she referenced the fact that, and this is especially true for men who are language processing beings as opposed to um, women who feel more intuitively and easily, that the more words we have for emotions, meaning I don't just feel angry. Angry is a blunt object. Angry can be anything, but I'm frustrated, I'm resentful, I'm pissed
yes.
off. The more words we have, the more rich our entire experience of emotion becomes.
Yes. I also there's a quote that I love that says anger is just the bodyguard of sadness.
Mm, mm.
And I don't necessarily think that that is always true, but I do think that for some cultures and maybe men specifically, anger is the more acceptable emotional expression for all the other things that you might be feeling. So maybe you are feeling sad, maybe you are feeling frustrated, maybe you're embarrassed. Embarrassment, because I worked in schools, was a big one for my boys. Like when they were embarrassed and didn't have words or skills or tools, it typically would end up being suspended or expelled from school because they would react in a way that would like try to mitigate the embarrassment simply because they just didn't have a language or an acceptance of what embarrassment is. Yeah.
That's 100% right. I mean, you can imagine in the situation where I'm crying over just such a simple miscommunication on my math homework, and I'm so embarrassed. And you can imagine, uh, you know, coming from any other personality, had I not skipped a grade, had I not wanted to like stick out like a sore thumb, like I'm crying, I'm embarrassed, and maybe I scream, maybe I lose it, maybe I flip a table, like maybe that's my response. There's this incredible tool called map of consciousness, and I say tool because even it's just a still image of a hierarchy of emotions.
Mm,
The bottom being shame, and the emotions are in this energetic enlightenment order. So at the very tippy top, you have peace, love, joy, the happiest, the highest of highs. And at the very bottom of our emotional scale is shame and
mm.
guilt. And exactly what you said, where what was it? Anger is the bodyguard of sadness.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right underneath anger is sadness. And
Yeah.
each situation, we are multifaceted beings. And so it can show like anger isn't just anger. It's got your entire life situation behind it.
Yeah.
It's not so simple to just label one thing and we're done. We're off of it. We really have to examine what is our code? What are we working with?
Yeah. You said something, and I want to bring our attention back to it because for me, this is, I think, the way that I became a more feeling being. You said a couple things. You said that women are innately feeling and men are more words, which I've never heard that before. So maybe like I want to expand a little bit on that too. But I also want to talk about the way that I perceive our ability to be empathetic, to meet other people emotionally. In my journey comes from our own deep experience with pain. So when you talked about like you had this heartbreak in college and that was kind of the catalyst for your awakening, if you will, for me it was the death of my father. And my father was like my favorite human in the whole wide world, and he passed away 7 years ago, and ever since then I have been on this very intentional journey. Like I tell people his death was my awakening. So I want to talk a little bit maybe more about like what is your experience? Do you agree? Like, do you feel like it's that depth of pain? And for me, it wasn't like anything I planned to experience, obviously. Like, it just life took me there, and I had no, like everything that happened after that was on autopilot. Like, I didn't even, like, I had no, I was just like so sad that, like, life just yeah, like it just started to roll it, but it helped me have empathy for other people on this journey, people who maybe are not able to, like, who don't have the consciousness, people who are like stuck in certain patterns of behavior, people who hurt me. Like, I have different perspective on that because one, I was not always awake, and two, it was really that deep loss that was the catalyst to my awakening. So what is your feeling about that?
Pain is oftentimes more real than anything we ever experience. I mean,
Mm,
in the Buddhist language, life is suffering. That's kind of where they start, where because we are, at least at one level, material beings meaning everything we interact with in one form or the other at some time is going to pass away. Like whether it's as simple as the food that we ingest, it's gone. Like we're eating, we're enjoying it, and then it's gone, to someone we love, to shoot, the sun is going to blot out of the sky at some point. And so this is what the fundamental crisis is that everything we love is going to die. And that pain is the catalyst, or at least the real recognition of that. And it can be sparked by literally anything. And so many people are going through this existential crisis nowadays because they are recognizing their time is limited here. Their health is decaying. All of these hugely existential questions are weighing down on them. And that is the catalyst to say, okay, everything changes, but there's got to be something that remains the same amidst all of it. And that is the spiritual journey. That is, what is the thing? Who am I? If the body decays, I can't be that. If my mind is shifting every possible second, I can't be that. So this is the fundamental thing, and pain is the only thing that will bring us there. Because if life is good, why search at all? It's the catch.
yeah, this is a good framing. I read something yesterday. Somebody was saying that we're becoming too attached to suffering. And I was trying to like understand what that means because I'm now 7 years into this journey, right? I don't feel like I'm suffering like I have been suffering. I think what it is, Ethan, is I am not as attached to things as I once was. Probably because the thing that I love the most left the planet. So I'm now able to connect to things in a way that I am conscious that they won't always be around. And that gives me an appreciation for life that I did not have before. So I don't know. I think when we say like life is suffering, sometimes people think that that means that we're just going to be in pain all the time. How do you answer that?
Yeah. So people often get caught in the, like, if you're at all into Buddhism, your life is suffering and you just stop talking. Like that's that, everything dies. It's this nihilistic, pretty negative viewpoint on things. But the third truth on this hierarchy is that there is an end to suffering. And it's exactly what you're talking about, which is not detachment, because detachment makes us cold and apathetic and leads to a joyless life, but
Yes.
just non attachment. It's just seeing things as they are. Everything is impermanent and everything is expressing itself exactly as it is. And wow, should I appreciate this moment because of that insight. And then suddenly, exactly what you're saying, when the spiritual journey starts for more or less everyone, it is the lowest of the low because there's no way out. You don't have a philosophy, you don't have a practice of like, how do I navigate this situation? It's just darkness everywhere.
Yes.
But at the point 7 years in, for many people, it takes at least 3 years to like see a glimmer of hope where suddenly suffering isn't suffering. It's just the realization that things are changing and I'm upset. I'm suffering because I don't want it to change, but I like this thing, but this circumstance suits my needs. And so in the letting go, the non-attachment of saying, shoot, maybe something more beautiful is going to take its place. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not for a while, but maybe. And then life becomes totally bearable, totally bearable.
Yeah.
And then once that still sounds negative to some minds that like, oh, it's just bearable. Well, eventually what becomes bearable then becomes enjoyable. And then what becomes
Yes.
enjoyable becomes awe-inspiring magnificence everywhere you.
Yes. Yes. That, like, the sun could come out and I am like wanting to bow down to God. Like, I'm like, thank you for the, like, it's the simplest things that bring me joy now because I don't know. Like I just understand that it's all fleeting. But
Yeah.
with that, Ethan, and I want to get into your current like life journey because you are on
Mm,
a real like,
mm,
exploratory journey, like in the real sense of like exploring the world. So I want to talk about that. But what I feel is that in addition to it being like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, I had this period of suffering, but now like I'm so grateful. It also is like this understanding that because this life isn't permanent, I can take risks. Like I can take so many risks because what is this? Like I don't even know what this is. Like so happier and I'm more willing to follow my soul wherever
yeah.
that leads because there's a clear understanding that one, none of this is permanent, and two, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? Like, So yeah.
It makes me think when we talk to people that are just beginning the healing journey, it really is like, how do we just, I was thinking about that. If someone's in a shame spiral, absolutely, they're blaming themselves for everything. You can't talk to them about enlightenment. You can't point to the clouds and say, but look at this, look how beautiful a simple sun ray is, or look at this. I mean, like, it doesn't register. It's not going to work. And so we need to just take one step up. And maybe that step is like, hey, you shouldn't feel guilty. And this is the case for many. I'm projecting, but I'm imagining many women who feel the shit, like they put all of the problems on themselves. And then we say, actually, you've been suppressed. You've been held down and you need to get angry. Like this is, you can't, all is well. The patriarchy was all worth it because now I understand the higher, blah, 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 blah. No, let's get pissed. Let's riot in the streets. Let's hold picket fences.
Yeah.
And then at some point, that becomes the basis to say, okay, anger only serves me so much. So what's the next step up from that? And then it's action, then it's this, then it's that. So this is the spiritual journey we're all walking
Yes, yes.
along.
And what you're saying, especially as it relates, I feel, to the male and masculine experience, is a large part of this is you have to be willing to feel your feelings, whatever the feelings are.
Yes. Yes.
And as men, it is this conditioning of to like you have to cut off the part of you that feels anything in order to participate in this patriarchy. So talk to me about like what does that mean? Like
Yeah.
what is that and how do you as a man or masculine like how do you overcome that conditioning to just even sit with yourself and feel your feelings?
Mhm. My goodness. I mean, this is the ultimate question for men, isn't it? I suppose like it is impossible to do wrong to someone when you're emotionally in touch with yourself, especially on the higher levels of spirituality where we realize, it's not Ethan having a conversation with Monica. It's the universe having a conversation with itself. Like exactly what you said. What are we doing here? We're just,
Yeah.
we're already one thing. We just look different and we're just prisms for
Yeah.
different versions of souls to come through and experience the earth. That's at the highest level. Below that, before we have those realizations, comes this understanding that I can only do harm to Monica when I am detached from feeling the repercussions of that.
Mm.
So talk about all the slave masters and all of history. If they were in touch with the shame that they felt of doing what they did, they couldn't possibly have inflicted any damage on people because it's too overwhelming. And so we need to disassociate from every possible emotion available to us in order to do any wrongs. So for men to have the courage to sit with yourself, and I'm going to say this as a blanket term because men feel all the emotions and they're going to go through every single thing. But speaking personally, a large chunk, a large piece of the database when I examine myself in meditation and silence is shame and guilt. Oh my God, I totally I totally was not the person I wanted to be. I totally abused my power. I overstepped. I didn't listen. I like all of the failings need to come up, and there's no way out of it. There's no way to logically explain. Like again, at the higher levels, forgiveness comes naturally and effortlessly. All is well. All is good. You know, you were ignorant. You were blind. You were cut off. You were traumatized. All that is obvious. But at the lower levels, we gotta feel the pain of shame that we inflicted upon other people. And that's a courageous act because you are not guaranteed to be forgiven by other people, right? And so the best you can possibly do is forgive yourself. And you can only forgive yourself when you see the damn reality of what happened.
Yeah, I love that. I love the way you said that. So talk to us about Ethan 2.0. That's what some of my friends call it, like our updated versions of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. Like, so post awakening, post feeling your feelings. I know you have a retreat coming up, so I want you to talk about the retreat, but like who is Ethan today? Like and what is your life like? Like if you're speaking to listeners who identify as masculine and they have not been feeling their feelings and they're listening to this, what is on the other side, Ethan? Like what is the reward for doing and going through all of this hard work that I know that you've had to go through emotionally to get to where you are today?
Yeah. I'll call myself Ethan like 1.8 because like where you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm so close, and yet there are deeper levels to the game that I'm
Yeah.
now facing. But to give you a picture of my life and what it looks like and the joy I experience day to day, no, I wake up with the sunrise naturally. I've got blooming energy without the caffeine. For instance, I'm in a kung fu school right now. I create my own schedule. I'm doing what I love. I share yoga and YouTube and write. I make just enough money to support my lifestyle, and I don't feel anxious about that. Sometimes anxious. That's why Ethan 1.8. But less and less. What else? And there are no enemies in my life. Everyone seems there are a few loose ends karmically and past relationships that I've forgiven myself for, but that haven't been quite reciprocated yet. But that means everyone I meet is a friend. There's no drama in my life anymore because there's nothing to argue inside of me. There's no more thorns that like someone says something, it triggers me, and suddenly now I'm having to cool off somewhere for 30 minutes. Things just flow effortlessly and naturally. So these are the rewards. The highest one just being peace. Just being peace. I can sit with myself without going crazy. People think that like, you know what I mean? That's a high achievement.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Yes. So
Yeah.
sitting with yourself enables you to travel the world the way you do. Can you talk to listeners a little bit about how you are engaging with the world right now? Like your
Yeah, it's
travels and
yeah, I left my hometown of Asheville, North Carolina nearly 3 years ago. I started on van life tours. I lived in a van for 6 months, traveling to all the different national parks around the country. And then since then, I've been Europe, Central America. I've been in Asia the last few months. And all of this, primarily my main forms of income are coaching and body work. So I'm able to, in real time, when I get face to face with someone, offer hands-on massage and so forth. And then vice versa, especially with young men, some of my favorite people to coach is helping them achieve their goals. And their goals, very often you've got the surface level material things that you want to accomplish, which are only possible when you learn how to emotionally regulate yourself and understand yourself more deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and plenty of creative pursuits. I've got lots of projects in the pipeline that are slowly coming online. I'm just being patient with the creative process.
You're in Japan right now and you're at a kung fu school. Is there any maybe differences in terms of what you see in men in Japan versus like a man who was raised and conditioned through America? Like, and maybe beyond Japan, because you've been so many places, like, what do you find is more of like the universal experience of the masculine? I'm curious.
In Japan, it is, uh, I guess in some ways very similar to the United States, which is men are lonely. You can see it, you can read it on their body language. It's just their version of feeling worthy and accepted is by working hard and not talking to anyone. And you could just see it in the whole culture. And I wouldn't say that's true of the entire world. I would say much more universally is what we've been talking about, this emotional repression and a lot of anger. Like in Thailand and more of these third world countries, it's like I was in India for a month recently, and I was shocked at the level of manipulation that men had. Like from the simplest cab driver to every store clerk, it was as though every single person wanted to deeply manipulate and manipulate you. And that was shocking because I've got opinions about the US and like how broken as a society we are, but it's different in the world. Like there are places out there where which are really genuinely dangerous for people to go in. And all of this because we're all stuck in the cycle of trauma. That I'm watching these poor young boys in India who are 5 years old being groomed is not the right word because that's not what I'm going for, but taught by other people to like go up to strangers and beg for money and use I'm buying a bike, I'm doing this, like just lie straight to your face at 5 years old. And they're so, you can tell they're hungry, you can tell and so there's, in some ways, the India trip actually made me more pessimistic for the world because it's a big, we can have this conversation. The people listening to us right now are on a level of consciousness that they can really understand what we're talking about. But there's 90% of the world, I made that number up, a large majority of the world that cannot even have a conversation that they might be the issue, that like their own personal demons might be the thing that is causing the lifetime of struggle. And at that, we just wait. We just have to be patient with the process and do our own healing and awakening and watch everyone around us start to wonder, why is Monica so joyful? Why does Ethan look like he's actually at peace with this challenging situation? And that's the only way it can ripple.
Yeah. And it does go back to what you said about like just the repression. And if you can't feel your own feelings and you're not even conscious of the suffering that you might be causing to other people.
It's very powerful.
Yeah. So to wrap things up, because I know you gotta get on with your day, I want you to have an opportunity to let people know how they can follow Ethan and learn more about like your travels and what you're doing, but also like about this amazing retreat. Like if you could talk to us about the retreat that you have coming up and like what is your intention behind the retreat and how people could potentially join that retreat if they would like to.
That's right. Yeah, thanks for that opportunity. The main ways to keep up with me are newsletter and YouTube. I gave up Instagram because it was slowly killing me. So ethanhill.org/newsletter. That's a weekly, it's called the Body, Mind, Soul newsletter. I give a little bit of info about the body and healing the physical self, a little bit of suggestions on the mind, practice meditation audio to get people understanding how their thoughts work. The spirit is I take a quote from someone that has gone through it and expand upon it, upon what they might have meant or the lens through which I see the quote. That's one. Then I make YouTube videos about yoga philosophy and occasional classes. And then the retreat, which I'm really, really excited about, is happening this summer, depending on when people listen to it, July 3rd through July 9th, 2025. That's happening in Portugal. It's 6 days, 7 days, 6 nights, totally phone-free retreat. It's held in this beautiful nature oasis in what's called the last wild coast of Portugal. So like 20 minutes away, there's absolutely no buildings anywhere to be seen on these stunning cliffs overlooking the beach. And it is made for two specific people. The first are working professionals who are feeling existential. They're burned out. They want a hard reset because we keep going on vacation, and vacation doesn't seem to solve it. Like come back and the other are already spiritual seekers, already people who are starting to become in touch with themselves and want more skills. So the entire retreat is focused on giving people practical real world application tools to navigate the rocky seas of awakening. How does energy flow through the body? What does the third eye mean? What does it mean to use a physical body? How do we control and master our thoughts? Or is that even possible? My job on this retreat is to be is to hold discourses. So like intellectual discussions on, so that the mind can understand it's not just woo-woo mystical language of awakening. No, it makes sense on every possible layer that you can look at. Co-hosting the retreat with a dear sister of mine, her name is Gabriella. You step into her energy and you just melt. You're just in love with this woman. And she's teaching much more of the emotional side. So she's holding different journaling techniques, like how do we make the process, actually, this is the best way to describe it. If enlightenment and healing is this mountain, my job is to teach you where the pitfalls are. I'm explaining the mountain to you, and her job is to make you more comfortable along the way. So like, how do you make tomato soup when nights get cold and so forth? No one can walk, no one can hike the mountain for you. It's got to be done by the person themselves. But they're incredible people. We all have mentors that can help us.
Even I don't know if anybody has ever explained to me a retreat in this way. Like
Uh,
I am now second guessing my July plans. Like that it sounds amazing. And one thing that I do love, and maybe we can close out with, in the US at least, I would say there is, I feel like, this constant clashing and just discourse or angst between the masculine and the feminine. Like it's just this constant blaming the other one for the predicament and the energy that we are all in. And one of the things that I really have been intentional about with my podcast, my platform, with everything I do is to keep saying, there are no singular victories. If the women all heal and the men don't, we're still fucked, okay? And if the men all heal and the women don't, it is truly so. To hear you say that you are facilitating a retreat where you clearly understand that these two energies, they are different, but together they can create such a soft landing, because some people, even masculine or feminine, need a logical explanation for how to get up this hill. And some people, masculine and feminine, need freaking tomato soup to help them feel like, oh my gosh, I can climb the hill. So I am so excited. And I'm also I'm so thankful that that first encounter was not our last encounter.
Me too. Me too.
I'm
It's
so
so
grateful.
special.
It
Agreed.
is. It is.
I think we had a conversation at some point, maybe not in that first drop in, but at some point around the fact that women are really this is a vast generalization. Women are really showing up for the healing process. I can't even guess the ratio, but it's at least 2 to 1. It's at least 2 women for every man that's showing up. It's probably much more than that. And exactly what you said, like we're in a complex situation right now in the world, and everyone can feel the tension rising. There's from a book I read, they mentioned that when the pimple pops, it's the ugliest on the surface. It's always been there. It's like hiding below the skin, but right when everything's about to change is when it looks the worst. And all of us, man, it looks ugly out there right now. But we just have to, on top of, so we were backtracking for a moment. You were talking about how maybe you can just risk it, right? Like this is the moment that not only I can do what I want, basically, but there's the extra level of not only is because all of this is kind of made up anyways, but maybe the universe is actually on our side. Maybe not only can you risk it, but maybe that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, and so this is all of our, everyone listening, there is no cons. It may seem in the moment like there are cons to feeling your feelings and going through the healing process. But in the long term, there is nothing but joy and light when you examine the truth of yourself, when you become honest and you feel what's really below the surface, whether it's convenient. Some of the things I've seen in my own meditation are some of the ugliest parts of myself that I have ever seen that I just do not want these to be in me. This is not who I am. I reject, I cannot take ownership or authorship of the things that I've done, the things that I've seen. And yet, what other choice do we have?
And it's really the only pathway to connectedness. Like it is I remember I had a client, a little boy, who said to me once, his mom had abandoned him, left him with an alcoholic father, and took his two siblings with her and created a whole new family. The message that he received was that he was left behind because he was a more challenging child to deal with. So it was like heartbreak after heartbreak, abandonment, like so many things. And this child was super smart, so intelligent. He was stuck in his sadness and he was acting out and he was projecting, and the staff and the adults just could not make sense of this child, and they just kind of had written him off as like a lost cause. He's a troublemaker, like. And I got him in my office and we had this conversation, and I wish I could tell him how this changed my life, but he said to me, he said, "Miss Wallace, you want me to feel my feelings. Like you want me to talk about all these things that I'm going through. But if I do that, I will start to unravel, and I don't have a support system at home to like put me back together. I don't have people to like help me."
Oof.
I don't know where that child is today, but I'm so prayerful that he somehow or somewhere, even if not now, but later, is able to like feel his feelings. Because what I know is when he can do that is what is going to lead him to the people who are going to be the tomato soup, the people who are going to be like, oh my gosh, no, you can get up this hill. Ability to feel your feelings is what is going to connect you to your people. Like the people who you're with right now and you're not feeling your feelings, they're not even your people. We don't even know if they're your people because like you don't even, you're not even real. Like you're not feeling your feelings.
Amen. Amen. And for inspiration, like the way the two of us are talking, like these are our people, and the people that feel that isolation out there listening. We're here. We got your back. Like really, truly.
Yes.
Trusting people again is a part of the process, but you can't trust people until you start becoming vulnerable. Like you can't, it just doesn't work. What came first, the chicken or the egg? They happen simultaneously.
Yeah. Ethan, thank you so much for being here. This has genuinely been a pleasure. I would love for you to come back anytime you are available and free to do so. I truly, truly love these conversations. Thank you so much.
Me too, Monica. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you again, maybe even in Portugal.
Maybe, maybe. I'm looking forward to it.